So my prediction in regards to JDG versus T1, the main things that I said was that the result is very hard to predict. I was leaning towards JDG. T1 in their strengths, I think they showed a lot of draft depth when it came to what they play in top lane, what they came to play in bottom side too. The main fear for JDG was how well would Hope and Missing cope with the pressure that Gumayushi and Korea has put on everyone else at the World Championship so far. Gumayushi and Korea delivered big time. We're going to look into that a lot deeper. The precision of T1 in terms of being aware of what their conditions are to win the game, in contrast to how well JDG did it. I think JDG left a lot of openings for T1, and T1 were very quick to pounce. And the moment T1 gained any advantage within the games with a lot of their champion picks, they just were allowed to express their skill. And I think that's how you describe T1 right now. If they're allowed to express their skill, then they look insanely dangerous, and they look like a team that is looking to win it all. Faker, I think, was a big standout in terms of the raise in performance. I believe Faker was not playing that well in group stage, and I don't think he played super well against RNG either. And I'm saying that not to say that Faker played bad. It's just that it wasn't as good as some of his other teammates. And I think in this series in particular, I think he showed that he's much better than Yagao. First game, I was very happy with what I saw from JDG's side. They got a lot of the champions that they enjoy, a lot of champions that they do well with. Lucian Nami, like them picking Nami and Lucian first allows them to be flexible on the second pick. They can choose if they want to match mid or choose if they match jungle. Like here, basically, I was thinking if it makes more sense to first pick Viego, right? And then if Aphelios gets picked, then they go Lucian Nami. But it could be an issue here that you pick Aphelios and then you pick, let's say, like a mid laner that you need to counter, let's say an Akali or something like this, and then you have to drop mid. Maybe it will be worse for you. Because I wasn't so sure about JDG picking Lucian Nami, and I think Viego Prao should have been a little bit higher. But the only question that I would add to the mix is, do they think that, that they needed to keep a slot open in case they wanted to pick mid 2-3? Sylas ban, the Sylas ban, it's often you see teams do bans where they are a lot more flexible. Like Sylas was one of those bans. They can play into Sylas, they can ban Sylas. They start off the series. Usually when you go into a best of 5, you don't want to walk. You want to walk in with as little locked bans as possible, and then you want to find some surface level value with your bans that won't hurt your draft, but might hurt the ideas of the enemy team and might force them to change their approach in their 1-2-3. All in all, I thought that this draft was favored for JDG. I think the Lucian Nami definitely picked up pace as everything progressed. The issue with T1's composition is they will have a very hard time because it will be very hard for them to find targets. Talia can buy Hourglass. Jax is not a target that you can combo, right? Jax was a very good pick here on 5. And Viego, if he builds tanky like he did, and stopwatches begin to come in and you don't snowball, then this composition will have a really hard time. The issue is, though, that in terms of the lane matchups and what Vi can accomplish early, it becomes very difficult for T1 to actually snowball such a game. Vi is very weak early. She cannot fight, she clears rather slow, and Viego clears very quick, and he fights very well. So if you look at the early game potential, I think red side is stronger, and T1 is playing the composition that kind of needs to snowball. Later on, they need to kind of hope that throughout their combo they can kind of just roll over the enemy, but it becomes very telegraphed. And when you have control over side lanes and you have control over the space on the map that is relevant, you're going to be in a situation where JDG can easily choose the fights they take. And if they can choose the fights they take, they can assure that they have flash up, they can prepare stopwatches, and they can prepare their position in a way that makes a lot of sense towards what the enemy is showing. But let's move into the game. This was definitely the best game in the series. So, despite contrary belief, this is a matchup bot where you trade very heavily. We saw this matchup going in both directions, and it's very important that you play it precisely. It's a very tough lane to play, and it can go both ways very quickly by just one misstep. This is a common thing that the junglers do, right? Is that they cross through mid. This is something that you can also apply in solo queue, especially if you're stronger than enemy jungler. Here Viego did his 3-side bot camps, and he's going into top side, but he's covering. He's crossing through mid and wasting an additional 10 seconds to pressure the enemy mid laner on the cannon wave. This is a very crucial wave for your wave control, and this is a common timer where mid laners are looking to posture forward. Another thing that adds to this idea for Kanavi is that he knows that Vi is not going to be here either. Vi doing this level 3 is very troll. This is a very good timing gank looking to pressure, but Faker played it well. He goes to the way, and I believe he procced phase rush too. Here, this is a very awkward spot for Zeus, even though the HP of 369 is very down low. Zeus on Camille, he will not have an easy time crashing this wave. He needs to save his mana and make sure that this wave doesn't get thinned down, but it is very difficult when Kanavi is here and the Vi went into the bottom side to do golems. This is one of the issues with Vi, that she can't contest river and she can't fight back against the Viego. What 369 is doing here, he's making sure that the wave is freezing towards him, but he's also, of course, thinning out the wave. Because if the wave becomes too big, then Camille will reach level 5, far away from Jax's level 5, and then he can fight in the wave, and so forth. This was a trade here that was very good for 369, because he burned all of the mana of Camille. So here, all of the mana was burnt off Camille, and 369 here, the wave is slow pushing towards him. So this is very big. So here, with this trade, Zeus has no mana, 369 managed to thin out the wave, and the wave is slow pushing towards him. He's going to be able to TP back here, and he's going to be able to maintain the freeze. Viego is pathing into top side, because his camp spawned bot side, right? Because we knew that he started on blue, and he did Grom, Wolves, and then crossed. And now, if you look at Viego's timers, he is going to be much in unison with what Jax wants to do top side. I think the dematerializer attack here from Lucian is quite interesting, to just dematerialize those cannon minions and make sure that you have XP advantages on crucial timings. I think it's very interesting. Not something that I've seen before. Here Owner is just making sure that his bot lane is secured, and T1 are pulling the wave and making it push towards them. So you see here throughout this entire sequence that Camille is in a rough spot. Based, TP'd back, while the Warhammer, Jax is keeping the freeze, and of course during this time span where Camille based and TP'd back, she lost a lot of XP on the minions that were dying to the wave that was so large in front of Jax's tower. This is prime position for Jax. He's very happy to be here. This is, for both, honestly, for both laners, both Jax and Camille, they want to make sure that the wave is freezing in front of their tower. Here 369 reaches level 6, and you see he's level 6 in a case where Zeus has more minions. So 369 got a big XP lead, and this is a really big deal for Kanavi is securing bot, making sure that they're able to push, trying to spot Vi, couldn't spot Vi, can assume she went into top side. 369 cannot get dove, he's in a very good spot here, so he just decides to secure bot and to clear. This is strange that it worked, because JDG don't need to push so far forward. Like at this point they can just wait, because here you will have information very soon. Like Viego is making the decision right now that will get them information. They don't need to push forward. They got the wave. As long as they can't get dove, they're very happy. Very happy. So here, the moment they clear this wave, they don't need to push you forward. Don't need to push you forward at all. Viego will receive information. They are going to, like here, Viego and Talia, they have full prio. They can step into top side and they can look to sniff here. They can pull the blue out and they can kite upwards. Jax is going to connect with them and there will be no play for Vi. Here, in all honesty, what you should expect, right, from the Vi is either she can gank bot or she is going to be on golems. If she's not on golems, you know 100% she's ganking bot. And this is something that JDG made mistake on throughout the game. Their bot lane was sometimes very connected, sometimes very disconnected. But imagine a world here where JDG didn't walk up. JDG don't walk up here, and Viego just puts his nose here on the blue, leashes the blue. If Vi doesn't show there, they know 100% that Vi is bot. But yes, the fact that this worked is very bad. Herald is very important in these more volatile matchups on top though. There after the bot kill, they can move up with Nami. There's a big timing window since Aphelios is stacking wave. This was very well played from T1 if I remember correctly. The fact that FaZe, like Faker played it really good, gets his full combo off on the Viego and then pieces out with his phase rush. Because the Nami comes in and they were not aware of Nami's position in this. Wasn't spotted on any vision. And then the Q lands. Very nice from T1. This was very well played from JDG. But here, if they can't if they can't dive the Lucian, it's like Lucian dying here is correct. It's correct. Like he got so many minions here. If he gave up these minions, they would use the whole wave to hit the platings. They would lose so much more gold. He should look to outplay. It's good play to look to outplay. He culled the wave, cleared the whole wave, and they dove him. And that dive needed to be perfect in order for it to work. It needed to be fucking perfect. So, all in all, like Nami showing top, predicting the play on top, was good roam, right? But what do you sacrifice for it? Lucian needs to try to clear the wave. He clears the wave with culling right. Maybe Aphelios can block or something, but he would take maybe too much damage because this Lucian has big items. But this dive needed to be played perfectly, and I think Lucian did exactly what he could. Yeah, the big thing is still the Rift Herald, right? It's like JDG can always choose to make the first move. So always when you play against the Rift Herald, the most important thing is to maintain tempo so you can always match the play of the enemy. The moment you expose yourself anywhere on the map as Vi, you are going to be in trouble. But this is a very restrictive way of playing the game. Because if Vi is not there where they are dropping the Herald, then the enemy gets pushed off the tower and you gain a lot more than you should have. But this situation for Camille was very crucial. Because before Jax was ahead and now they are relatively even. And you're going to see how much more it matters later too, because both top laners are going to be able to base on Divine Sunderer, even though Jax takes a lot of platings into the pocket. So yeah, this is the issue, right? It's like Vi is looking for an active play onto bottom side. Viego is going into top side, so Aphelios just decides to drop the wave and base. Very nice. JDG are playing like they're all on the same page, right? They are plain and simple, giving up bot, not contesting that wave because Viego stepped into top side. 369 is stacking a wave, and then they are playing for of course the play. The Talia is hovering, and they are looking to dive again. Galio wasn't on mid. They took the Drake together, and now Galio is going to sprint top here. He's catching the wave, and now he's going to look to Camille ult. Galio ult the Camille. So this is the issue now. It's like, sure, they got a strong Drake, but they just looked for the value of the Rift Herald. In a matchup that is Jax versus Camille, whoever is snowballing in this matchup is going to take over the game. Makes a lot of sense to make such a commitment for JDG. The issue though for T1 is that they don't have a lot of options. They need to kind of make some kind of a decision, within the game. And JDG have many options. Either they can defend and contest into bottom side, or they can just choose to place the Herald. Ideally, you know, in a world where owner contests top side, I think 3v3 they're a lot weaker. But 4v4 bot side, I think that T1 have very good chances. So it makes a lot of sense, owner's you know, line of thinking here. Key thing here, they placed the Herald and Jax got a lot of platings, but you can see on the base here of Camille, she still gets Divine Sandra. So those kills and those assists from earlier that occurred in the game is very crucial here. So we mentioned before that JDG are going to be able to outscale when they get the stopwatches, they become bulkier on Jax and Viego, they're no longer targets, they have summoners up. This is around the time where their composition becomes the strongest. Here they are very, very strong. So this is the point in time where T1 is the strongest in the game. This is where they should look to force, they should look to posture, and this is the time where JDG need to take it easy. Because there's no mythic, this was very common in the game. Something that Keria did so well was that he took boots and runes, sold them, got Imperial Mandate, and he had item timer ahead of missing in most of the games. This was one of those moments, right, where you could see that there is a clear gap, right, in how, at least in this particular game, JDG, how they control the map and secure the map. Basically, something that we recognized. We wanted to learn how to play through topside. So I presented JDG to my team because it's the best team to play topside in the world, right? And the main thing that they do always, they had this sequencing where their top lane is turbo strong, but their bot lane is a little bit weaker. They make sure always that they secure bot, make sure that they can crash one wave, they have vision, and then after goes into always, so their bot lane is secured. Always they made sure bot lane is secure, because in a world where you play topside, so basically you have teams that play topside, and then their bot lane gets dove, and their bot lane gets pressured off the tower, and their bot lane is fucking doomed. And they just get dove and pushed off, and all of this jungle gets taken by enemy jungle, then it's like you hate yourself. JDG always do this thing where they secure bot first, and then with this timing, when bot lane secured, then top lane is crashing a wave. So here you can see, right? We have Viego stepping into river, first making sure that the dive is defended. Then after he's going to connect with the Lulu and the Viego, or connecting with Talia. During this entire time, Vi is just clearing her camps, while in all honesty, Vi could be here. Vi could be here and she could be contesting. She should be. She has to be. Because they are getting away with this for free. The moment JDG secure the bot side, them securing top side will be too difficult. Now Vi is too slow on their play. So now what happens is Vi finally steps into bottom side. He steps into bottom side. She gets seen here on this ward, right now on this ward. And Aphelios Nami, Aphelios Lulu, they just give up bot, and then they walk into mid. They know that the play is happening into top side, and the only counterplay T1 have is to dive bot. So they have no business being bot. They go into mid, they get the pry on mid, they secure Rift Herald. This was beautiful. Let's continue. This was a very nice swap. Very nice swap. Like, right now, Aphelios, Lulu, and so forth, all of them got out of their point of weakness. Just got out of it. Jax didn't base yet, so he's planning to TP back. So you can, in theory, say, when someone presses recall, it is, in theory, the same as being on an 8-second death timer. But sometimes even worse when you don't have home guard. So it's like a 13-second death timer when you base. The rule that I always told my players, and what I tell most people, if you want to maintain tempo, so a common thing that happens is bot laners, or like someone gets a solo kill, right? You solo kill, you trade, your support dies, but you get a double kill. But you are not strong enough to push in the wave. The enemy team has death timers of 5 seconds and they have home guards. They're on time bot. They're on time bot before you crash the wave. You have no resources and you didn't spend your gold. You have 2 kills. Enemy AD has 1 kill. You have more gold, more XP, but you didn't crash the wave and you have no mana, no HP. And then you base and you have a 30-second death timer while the enemy had like a 6-second death timer. The reason I add the extra 5 seconds is because you don't have home guards. If you die, you get home guards and you sprint back to lane. If you recall, 8 seconds, 5 seconds, no home guard, you add the 5 seconds because no home guard, and you might even be in a slightly worse position. Very frequently, what happens is, wow, the enemy is dead, let's push, yeah? Enemy still has death time, it's 5 seconds death timer, let's take this tower, let's take this inhib. What happens is that just because you didn't base, when you base, you put yourself on an 8-second death timer. Sometimes here it's like, wow, they were 5 seconds, we're gonna take it, and then the enemy is running out like this, right? And you're right here, and you're like thinking, wow, I got some towers. But then what happens, just because you didn't base when you should have, let's say we're here, right? We just took this tower is gone, and the enemy is chasing us out. And we didn't spend our money, we don't have resources. They get pushed away, they get chased to Zimbabwe, and they didn't base yet. Just because these guys didn't base, you can enter here, you have free tempo, you have the biggest tempo of your life, the team that wasn't there in location. Because of course, this team that is pushing can't fight back. They use all of the resources and didn't spend their gold. The other enemy team will come fresh and they spent their gold. So they will most of the time be stronger, right? Imagine a world, instead, you kill the enemy team, you ace them, right? You take only 1 tower and you base ahead of time. The enemy team still has 20 seconds death timer. You base, you start channeling your base at 20 seconds. You come out, you will be here while the enemy spawns. What is the thing that occurs? You maintain tempo again. You take the mid wave, you enter. The enemy needs to react and play defensive. And you spend your gold and you come out fresh, you have wards again. That's why tempo is so fucking important. Tempo is the most important thing because it allows you access to positions first. Big steal. Big combo here from Gumayushi. Nice dodge on the W as well. Any trades back and forth is very beneficial for JDG. They're very happy when their game plan here. Like, the more items they have, the bulkier they become, and the easier access they have to stopwatch. Here I thought that that JDG are crazy for contesting. Once again, I felt like that T1 is stronger, and I thought that they could push her here. Because Camille hovered down, she has TP, Jax has no TP, and I thought here that JDG will not be allowed to cross. But I think Gumayushi is trolling. My man, if this guy is in fog of war, these guys get culled in the forehead, they are not crossing this here. They're not doing anything. And in my mind, this was an important timer for T1 too. Because I think T1 is very strong here. But JDG are very clever. They know that they can enter here because this guy is showing on the ward. If this guy is not showing on the ward, crossing here would be suicide. Because you see, Galio already started pushing the bot wave. Talia is also showing on the bot wave. T1 have an opportunity here to contest. Because you see, this is a choke point. To cross this choke point is very hard. Nami wave, they will drown in this Nami wave. But Lucian is showing on the mid wave. Very common mistake as well for most players. They take the mid wave and then they stand on the mid wave. Standing here, very bad. Gumayushi could hover and then they can contest the space. And now they could cross and they take control of the pixel. Crucial position, this pixel. And this fight was very bad from T1. Very, very poorly played. Honor burns all of his tools. Lucian couldn't be hitting. Nami burns a wave. all of the combo, all of their buttons were pressed, didn't accomplish anything. It all came down to JDG being allowed to cross here. They were allowed to cross this position because of Lucian's position. If he wasn't allowed to cross here, they wouldn't enter the same way, and now they have control over Pixel. And now the fight becomes very different, because T1 are the ones crossing the choke points. So when T1's composition runs out of juice, it's, yeah, it sucks to be their comp. Time is definitely not the friend of T1, because the moment stopwatches start to come in and players have flashes on their team, it becomes a big deal. So this was strange, right? So first and foremost, what was weird to me is that Hope didn't manage to get a base in this entire time. They managed to fight, kill a guy, killed Camille, and they didn't manage to put themselves in a position where they actually base. In reality, I thought that Talia is just going to take over mid here for the next wave, and then Aphelios will base and move out on the map. And then I thought to myself, maybe he's just looking for BT money. But he stays here, making himself very weak on the map, which gives T1 an opportunity. And at the same time, Missing's movement is also very poor. You see here, Hope loses all of his resources. Here, Gumayushi is very happy. He's fresh, right? After the fight occurred, Gumayushi managed to base, Kiria managed to base, but Aphelios didn't manage to base. Gumayushi is very strong here, very fed. He has 2 core. And right now, T1 have opportunities to gain space. So this is also something that is relevant to tempo. Right now, this guy needs to base. This guy is fresh. Don't be deceived by his HP, because Nami will heal this up in no time. So here, they see that the Aphelios and the Lulu is on the mid tower, right? Let's think about the information that that T1 is playing with to be able to face check into this bush. They go into this bush. Jax is showing, but this ward is quite beautiful. It's a big one. Talia begins to hover. Bot lane is crashed. So T1 entering here, they see that Aphelios and Lulu are in vision. But if you guys have watched earlier episodes of YamatoCannon's stream, then you know that when this tower is alive, and you want to play for this tower, because that's the natural progression of the game, the space you want to control is this. What is T1 doing? They're going into the dead zone. Why don't we want to go here? We only go here if we want to dive them mid. And that means we will have to have information on bottom tower, which allows us to do so. But right now, what is happening is that Talia is not showing on the bot wave that just crashed. So you see here, Talia, right now Camille pushed bot all the way. And right now, in theory, JDG is bleeding farm. They're bleeding farm. Right now, Talia, just because she's not showing on bot, means that she's on mid. That's the only thing that you can assume. The only reason you would ever cross into this space is if you have information of the enemy defending bottom. If Talia is into bot, right? If Talia is in bot and you go 4 here and you dive them mid, it would be brilliant. But the main thing here is that T1 are only working with the information right now. Talia not showing on the bot wave to catch. They cannot cross here. They can't. If Talia showed on bot, they dive this and the game is finished. That's why this is a very important hover from Yagao. Because if Yagao goes bot, they get dove here, game over. No joke, game over. And if nothing happened there for T1, T1's very happy. Enemy bot lane, they are losing CS on enemy bot. It means Talia is hovering onto mid, you can push the next bot wave and you can keep the enemy in a stranglehold. Because what happens is, if they spot that Viego here at any point in time, they can also dive the Talia on the bot. But T1 here skipped a step. Yagao saw the play, the ward spotted them, and they are fucked. If Talia is bot, as mentioned before, if Talia is bot on that wave, catching that wave that Camille pushed, these guys get dove, and this series would have been a 3-0. Look here how JDG is running back, right? They take the tower, They could continue, but imagine they base. They base, they keep tempo, keep the tempo with the Galio and the Camille in the game. Very happy, right? Very good. Jax starts pushing bot. He's quite fresh on the map. But T1 want to keep them on the map. They don't want them to base and spend the gold they just have. Now after the wave is dead, they have no option. Camille is now bot catching. And now you will see that JDG are just going to play through mid once again to recover the map. To recover tempo, right? We had this conversation always. The enemy has tempo. And they can enter into here. They can enter into here. And they can be everywhere. Right? They can be everywhere. You go through mid. You play on the mid wave, they show. You take over one side of the river. And then with the information that the enemies will show on the waves, you can play with. So yeah, JDG. Their tempo is behind. Because you see Lucian Nami is already hitting the wave. They walk out on mid. Plain and simple. They walk out on mid. They want to recover the map. Here from the previous fight, Aphelios has no flash. So he's like the main target that can be attacked, of course. Here, Ona plays it very good. He gets the hit. But I also don't like that they choose Aphelios to be the one to be hitting the wave. Because he's the only one without summoners. Imagine Talia is the one that is on mid wave. And Aphelios can be positioned here. Like that would have been a lot more convenient. Talia would have access to any fight. They can't commit to her ever. And it would have just been a better setup. But they care too much about their gold distribution. They want Aphelios to have the money. Main thing though is they burned all of their juice. So it's like this is still very fightable for JDG. They have good damage output, they get one kill, and then all of a sudden they are more champs. Like Jax is literally unkillable this game. No, after they kill Hope, they have to reset. They are not stronger. Like this is where the comp gap kicks in, you know? You can see always the same theory play out. JDG, they make sure that they have vision around mid so they can contest without getting engaged on, and then their solo laners scatter. So this is the topic that we talked about so much on this channel, where every team, how they play their macro is that they cover mid, make sure they have vision around mid to make sure that they don't get engaged on, and then they can contest mid wave with less people and play around their TPs, and then they scatter. And then based off the information, in this case T1 is showing 4 man on mid and Camille on bottom side, they can scatter and then play. Italia going into top, they have vision around mid, Viego sticks around mid, Jax is pushing the neutral, Talia is hovering. All very straightforward macro. So what happens when the tier 1 is down? When the tier 1 is down, it opens up the map for you. The enemy space that they're playing around it is this. Right? And when the tier 1 is gone, this part of the map opens up for you. If they have a mid tower, access to this bush becomes very easy. But look at the difference in position and the difference in length you have to go to make sure that you're in this bush. Right? It's very different. So in this particular case, they do have the mid prio. You can see the position of Lulu. You can see the position of Aphelios. Talia is showing on top, and they spot Jax. This is not the time for them to enter into this space. They can take it easy, because no one on T1 is pushing the bot wave, and Talia is pushing the top wave for free. Because in theory, you could be pushing this bot wave as well, right? But they are grouping to take space. Here, JDG can just put their hands off of the keyboard. Nothing is happening. No one's pushing the bot wave, so their bot lane tower is safe. What will happen is that Talia will push that, hover into mid to contest this mid wave that is coming out, and then they will catch bot and defend bot. But Lulu is smoking crack. And Gumayusi dashes forward, of course. He wants to have a fight here. And then they all get fucked. So what do we learn? When this tower is gone, the wave crashes all the way there, you are the one that has earlier access into here, so the map changes in terms of what you want to have access to. Okay? If this tower is alive, no one in a million years takes this pathing. If enemy Aphelios and Lulu are standing here and they see a guy cross here, but you think this guy is fucking trolling, right? You have to go all the way around. And what happens when you go all the way around? The enemy is first and you face shaking them and you get killed. They can catch the wave and be first here. That's why everything changes the moment the tower falls. The structure of the map and what you need to contest changes when towers fall. So this tower fell. You are the one with the easier access here when you have prior. So everything changes in terms of what you have access to. And this tower surely will also fall after. This was a brilliant defense, but this was very unfortunate. Because if you look at what happened to Zeus, he eased through Talia rocks. And these Talia rocks were hiding inside of the Nashor, like inside the body of Nashor, which makes it very silly. Here, T1 make a very good play. Faker's flash over the wall to look for a fight here is very good. He expects everyone on his team to be able to jump over the wall and to fight with him. But the issue is, Camille, she E's, look at her E now, she E's, okay, she E's, and then she goes into the rocks, and she gets stunned. And then some people thought, wow, she got knocked up by Nash. But the only reason she got knocked up is because she gets stunned inside of Nash, so Nash spits you out. You can't be inside of Nash. Like if you go really inside of Nash, he pushes you out. So what happened was, you see, you can E through the Nash. But if you go inside of the Nash, you get pushed out. You know? So he just gets stunned by Talia and then he gets knocked up. If the Camille gets over the wall, this changes it. But Kanavi does the hero play of all time here by jumping over with no HP at all. Which is completely crazy. This was cheeky. It was very cheeky. I didn't like here that JDG commits so many people. I don't know why Jax's conditions are so bad. I don't know why we're in a situation where Viego is also hitting the Drake when it's not necessary. Like, it's all very strange. But here you can see a moment, right, where JDG was still on the map, right? They were fresh, and then T1 needed to base after the Nasher. So they are using their tempo to face check all of the space. They know that no one can be here because T1 need to base, so they pick up a free tier 2 even against the Nasher, right? But the main thing here is after they do this is that the enemy team now is aware of their position, so it shifts. So here in this position, JDG are all showing, and they can begin to push with the Nasher wave, and now it is the opposite. JDG are the ones that could potentially lose their tempo here. Lucian is first on the mid wave, they get chased away, JDG are the ones that are pushed out, but this is them paying their tempo to get this tier 2. And while the enemy defends and push the enemy out with the Nasher, you are putting yourself in a spot where you are the one with the tempo advantage. JDG just open up on mid, realizes nobody's defending. Here you could also argue for the case where Camille could have potentially continued to push. Camille could have just continued to push with Nash because defending this tier 2, they would have been too late. Like imagine right now Camille is there. She has full vision, she has TP. This would have been like a very good play. Camille has Nasher, this would have been a free tier 2 and the enemy would have to respond. And then you open up on mid as 4 and then you retake when the enemy is defending bottom side. But Camille just straight up based and they gave up tier 2 for free. Right? In a position where they had tempo advantage, they only go to tier 1 and JDG didn't even commit to defend. Like here, JDG is not even defending. And they cannot be in a position where they are racing against Nash. Because T1 is faster here. T1 have 2 waves, they have 2 cannons, wave and Nash. They could just run it down bot. Really, they could run it down bot here and be faster. But instead they base. JDG got away with defending bot by not defending bot. Even though T1 are the ones with Nash and they can be the ones heavily pressuring. And now they go bot instead. And now they can't siege. Because JDG are not defending anything. There are 5 people on the bottom tower. There's no siege here. Look at your champs. You can't siege like this. Now, here, after the enemy commits into bottom side, the mist is placed. They need to go into mid, and they need to start pushing top. Now Camille needs to press B. Camille needs to press B. These three need to go back into mid, and Camille needs to run straight top. This is very bad from T1. Very bad Nashor play here. Because they have no business being here. Like, what are they doing diving 5v5? This was gorgeous. This was jizz-worthy. What Faker did. Both the engage on the Nash was very nice, I think. This was very nice too. Faker, I think, played very good this series. But it's once again the same thing, right? You put vision around mid that allows you to contest the wave without getting engaged on. Here, Aphelios got engaged on. Because why? T1 are in the same headspace. In order for them to contest the mid wave, they understand that they need to have pressure on Aphelios. This pink ward is placed. This pink ward is placed. Let's see who places it. Okay? Owner places it. He knows that this is the angle for him. He needs to stand here in order to find a very nice engage on the Aphelios. This is a pink ward that's placed. The ward is being placed here. And then a gorgeous shellacking happens. Look at that. Gorgeous, man. And this is a GA that goes straight to hell. And from this position, I thought, wow, T1 just stole the game. Because in my mind, you know, they're going to be 4v5. By cooldown of ult is going to come back up. Lucian ult cooldown will also come back up. They will have all ults relatively close to the dragon spawning. And if they secure Elder, the enemy team doing Nash is very unlikely. It's not super easy. If they get the Elder, they will get the Nash too. Yeah, T1 are just making sure JDG went all the way, that Viego is spotted in base. They're gonna push the wave all the way and then take the jungle, sweep everything. Make sure that JDG defends first before they enter the jungle. I think at this point here, it's not that important that JDG gets space here. And now they're going to slowly back off and start to clear these wards. Some of these wards that spot them give JDG more space to walk forward, right? This ward spotted them. They knew that the enemy is walking into Nash area, so they can take space here to try to angle towards the situation. This pink ward is also very important. This pink ward is doing a lot of work because it spotted 3 people. Just because it spots 3 people allows JDG to enter even further. It's all about tethering your space in accordance to what the enemy is showing. Because there's no threat on them the moment they see 3 people. If one person clears that ward, maybe JDG's position will be different. Very important to maintain and hide your position from the enemy. Okay? Now Faker is spotted. He still has Gali ult, so he doesn't care where he's standing. And then here, a big problem here, what Camille is doing in the pit, right? She is completely getting schmocked. Okay? Getting schmocked, but JDG are also rushing to start this fight. I think Yagao's position is really fucking troll. I think here he is completely lost on. If you look at this position here, it looks like JDG is hard trolling, in my opinion. Yagao needs to play in this pocket right, and he needs to pressure these guys. Here, Yagao is not accomplishing anything. And they're going into the fight when the Drake has 9k HP. So there's no rush. They can reposition, take their time, they can poke, they can play on time. Okay? What happens here is that they chunk Zeus, he eats into the wall. And instead, what happens here is like Talia is trying to get some damage done. Missing is completely trolling too, right? If his team is actually, I don't know how Missing is supposed to play this, honestly. It's very awkward to play because he needs Talia to protect them here, and they need Viego to play in the pocket here, and like it's just a very weird situation. Like Missing is just free food here, you know. Imagine a world here where Zeus and Galio don't fight the Talia that is in Africa. That's the main issue for me. It's like Yagao's position becomes good due to how T1 is fighting. But in all honesty, here, the way they are positioned is so bad. Imagine these guys in the pit just get hit and they lose HP and they get fucked. The Drake is fucking them. Everyone's fucking them. It's just a fucking bukake here in the pit. Lulu is out of position, and Talia has nothing to do. Like, if Talia has ult, maybe she can wall like that and create some chaos and jump off and do something. But the only reason this Talia gets value is because Zeus and Galio keep fighting here where this guy is. Imagine these guys are not fighting and getting chunked to shit right now. They are killing Jax for free. They're killing Lulu for free. Nothing is happening to this dragon. Nothing. Instead, what occurs is this Talia is playing fucking cookie clicker here. She's just throwing her spells into the pit on these guys that are fighting here. Imagine a world where this didn't happen. And maybe Camille manages to find an angle on Jax. And maybe Faker is kiting backwards. And these guys are just lost in Zimbabwe. They're not doing anything. Imagine a world here where Zeus is not fighting Mortal Kombat. Galio is healthier. And then they have tools to deal with this Jax. So this Aphelios will be healthier. But instead he gets bonked. And here on the live view I was just saying, yo, Jax just needs to just fucking jump over the wall and start fighting 3 people. Because he beats them all. And then he did it. He just queues over the wall, make sure he denies Vi. Because this Vi is this is the only pocket she's in. Let's just see the ending of this game. They have Elder. Oh, it is what it is. And JDG go for the end.